And we are live. Welcome, family, to another show. We have a very interesting topic to talk about tonight. We're going to bring a few guys in the room. I just want to preference this show. First, some of you have already heard this guy who first murdered his ex girlfriend on Facebook Live. Well, he didn't murder him on Facebook Live, but he went on Facebook Live and he told people about what was going on with his custody battle with his ex-wife and his baby mother, who's about to have his baby. And the video, we're not going to show the video. The link is actually in the description, guys. But right now, I just want to preface that in any type of form of fashion, do we condone anything like this? It's a very tragic event. He destroyed pretty much three families because the things didn't work out. And it's a very sad situation, man. But I'm going to bring some guys on. I just want to preface the show before we get started that mental health is very important. And, it's not worth taking anybody's life over, custody battle or bad relations in any type of form or fashion. All right, guys? So I just want to preface that before we get started because YouTube has actually been sending other content creators emails about the situation as far as covering this subject. So we're not going to get too far into detail. Like I said, we're not going to show the video or anything like that. The link is in the description if you haven't heard about this brother in Maryland who unfortunately killed his ex-girlfriend and his ex-wife and himself. All right. But this is a topic of discussion because we do need to talk about this, man. And the subject, a lot of people might be confused by the title. The title is, could traveling abroad have saved this situation? Could it have helped him in his, trials and tribulations to make a better decision, man? Because that was a very horrifying decision that he made right there, okay? So real quick, I'm going to go ahead and bring Rob on the room. What's up, everybody? What's up, Brandier? What's going on? How's everything going with your brother? Let me
Good, man. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good, man. Doing good. We are out here in Brazil during the holidays, man. It's a very festive season out here. Um, but yeah, man, let's go ahead and get into the subject. I'm bringing a few other people on. This is an open forum. I got some other brothers that's going to come on too. But when you first heard about this situation, man, what did you think?
Well, I mean, my point of view is probably going to be not popular. Since some of the things he was saying, like I really could relate to what he was going through. You know what I mean? Because I, had a baby mama. My child is grown now, but I went through a lot of stuff. I went through her making false allegations just to make it harder for me to see my son growing up. So I really felt his pain. Now I definitely never felt the urge to do something to her or anything like that. I took it on the chin, and I just had to live my life accordingly. But when I first heard it, I was like, I naturally empathize with him, his story, but I mean, I do, I mean, I feel for the kids, I feel for everyone in those situations, and I do want to draw some parallels, I mean, once we kind of get further in the discussion.
Okay, yeah, because when he first came on the video, it took a while left, man, because I didn't think he was going to say that because I saw what the caption said under the post, and I'm like, okay, what's going on with this? And when he just said like, "Hey, man, yeah, I shot my ex girlfriend," I'm like, whoa, bro, like where'd that come from? And he was telling somebody that was in the chat, he was like, "Hey, man, you know about the situation." But what I want to say this real quick, we're gonna go ahead and get into the show. But I kind of felt when I first saw it, I just said to myself, man, I really wish he would have had somebody in his network, you know what I'm saying, to say, hey, bro, we about to go out of town, we about to go out of the country next week, calm down, somebody just to say, hey, bro, we going to DR next week, or hey, bro, we're going to Brazil next week. I don't think he would have made that decision. I think if he had a trip coming up, and let me say this real quick, guys, traveling is not going to solve all your issues in life. I'm not saying that. You still going to have them problems when you get back to the matrix, of course. And I can't really identify with because I don't have any children. But I still don't, I still don't know why he would have did something that drastic as to murdering, his ex and his ex-wife. I just thought that was just crazy to me. So I just thought it was just, man, I just really wish that somebody within his crew or his family and friends, he could have talked to and been like, hey, before you do something that drastic, man, you got to be able to call somebody. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. I wish I could have hugged the brother, man, before he made that decision, man. Like, man, like sometimes black men, we just need just something, man. We don't get we might not be getting the affection at home. And like he said, he didn't have no family. He felt alone. And like, if I would have known his brother before that, I would have just grabbed him and be like, hey, I've been through a similar situation, man. You could get through it, man. It's what you got to do, man. And it's just very unfortunate.
Yeah, man. When I first pulled up to Brazil, I remember I had heard a story from a friend of mine, and he was saying how a police officer out here, I guess he caught his wife cheating or something like that, and he went and of course murdered her and then the guy she was cheating with. And I'm like, this is not like an isolated incident. You know what I'm saying? Like things like this does happen. When people, infidelities and then child disputes and divorces and but to do what he did and then go on Facebook Live, I just thought that was like, wow, bro, that's just crazy. That's crazy.
I think he did something. I think he did something for society to at least get us to really start taking certain things seriously, starting conversations. We can talk about the murder all day. That's black and white. But we got to talk about all the details because everything is affected. I mentioned this in some of the WhatsApp groups. We always look at the person that got punched last, the person that punches last, right? We never look at the person that threw the first punch, right? And I used some analogies. I was like, when we got attacked on 9/11, right? We looked at, these groups, they don't like us, but we never looked at why they did it or what we did to them. We never look at the flip side. And then another parallel is that I've heard of, at least 3 situations where a husband or a boyfriend was physically abusive to a woman and she just ended up killing them. Whether in that moment or another day, like she ended up killing them. In one instance, a woman got off, and then other instances, they still got support from females. Females still empathize with the woman, like, oh, she was abused, this and that. And females empathize with her, even though she killed the man. So and that's for physical abuse. So men may not be physically abused, but we deal with mental, emotional, psychological, emotional abuse. And, sometimes people don't want to put those in the same box, but that's something we have to talk about because, somebody could say, well, he did the same thing another woman did that got physically abused. So those are the things, we gotta talk about.
Exactly, man. I want to bring the kosher clinician in here, man. How you doing today, brother?
What's man? Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you perfectly clear.
Well, this whole story has caused a lot of consternation. It's caused a lot of concern, and it's definitely going to bring a new awareness to mental health and mental health pathologies. Many times, Aaron, that go undiagnosed. As a licensed therapist, and also we look at it from a cultural perspective, we don't do enough to advocate for not only men but also for black males. And that's why I started the kosher clinician, because I realized that a lot of times the world is oblivious to the pains and the suffering of many men. I've said on my show and on my panel, Aaron, that a broken man is a hopeless man, and a hopeless man is a dangerous man. This man said several times that he didn't have family, and he said that he was depressed. Now, there are some pundits, Aaron, and to no excuse, ENT, they're saying that, he's had a history of being violent and abusive. I don't know. But let's play the devil's advocate. What caused those pathologies? What caused that pain? What caused that brokenness? Not to justify what he did. But when you keep dealing with a man, keep taking them to the brink, and we have a society that don't really care about the concerns of black men, eventually they snap and they break. Just like you told the story about the cop that snapped, and he's a cop. So if a cop can snap over somebody messing with his wife, how much more can a man that been letting this crescendo of anger build up over time snap as it relates to his children and these women harassing him or more or less not giving him the freedom that he needs to vent? And to your question, yes, I believe if he had got with maybe you or me or some other guys that have known about the kosher clinician, I think this man would have been alive today. I stand by that.
Man, that's a very good point. I believe that as well, and that right there, man, that whole situation was painful to me because once again, we're not condoning the horror that he did, but you kind of felt his pain the way he was talking. Like you could tell that he was really going through it. And I'm like, bro, I just hate that he didn't have somebody he could talk to or call. He said somebody was familiar with his situation while he was doing the live. And I'm like, I wish that brother would have called him immediately. But unfortunately, he saw his ex-wife and he did what he did. But I'm like, bro, you got to, before you break like that. And I know it's a lot of black men in America that's at that breaking point. I think, Rob, you had mentioned in the earlier conversation that you don't know somebody's breaking point. You don't know when somebody's about to just lose it and go ballistic. And we know that, as far as the, frustration of being a male in America, period, because we know that, white guys, they go shoot up schools and shoot up malls. And these is all like breaking points for men. It's a very dangerous situation. And this is why I tell people, hey, man, it's important before you break, if you don't have anybody to talk to, the best thing you probably can do is just leave the current environment you in so you can kind of look at the world outside looking in a little bit, man. Just get away. He should have just got out of Baltimore, even if it's for a weekend. What do you think about that, Rob?
Man, I'm gonna get a little deep real quick, man. So we have to really think on a high level. I've had these conversations here in my city when it comes to violence, let's say, within the black community, and how we are forced to adhere to laws and a system created by white people, right? So the point is that the people that created this legal structure, they looked at crime as on the threshold of white people on their breaking point, right? Maybe their breaking point is here. Black people breaking point is a little higher. We use the term hyper violent when we had this discussion. So black people in general, we commit more crimes because we just can't adhere to a standard that was created by a white structure. We have to create our structure where we know where our tolerance levels is. You know what I mean? So when people try to say, well, yeah, I wouldn't have did it, but who's to say what is the reasonable tolerance of a person, of a man or a woman?
Right. I agree with
you
that.
know what I mean? So we don't know. Some could say in a different 100 years ago in the Wild Wild West, his tolerance level could have been considered normal. You know what I mean? So we have to be really careful to kind of judge people on their tolerance level. And I hope y'all kind of get what I'm saying.
Right. No, you're correct. It's a such thing called a tolerance threshold. Everybody they have different tolerance thresholds based on their temperance, but also based on the level of the pathology they've been through. Aaron might have a higher tolerance threshold than me, but I might have a higher tolerance threshold than no excuse ENT. I said the same thing. And, you know, there's a concept that's tied to post-traumatic stress called depersonalization, when the person feels like they're outside of themselves. It's tied to a condition called splitting, or sometimes disassociation. You know, I'm not saying he had dissociative personalities, or the person can disassociate because they're no longer in reality. When you look at that man, it was very surreal. It was weird. It was very dark, but he was talking so casually. And one must ask himself the question, was he really in his proper faculties? He looked like he was in his proper faculties, but he was very detached. And that's what happens when you have a culture where men don't have the wherewithal to share their pain. You know, we always tend to associate black men with Mr. You know, Mr. is the bad guy. Mr. You know, anytime there's an abuse, we talk about Mr. And we tend to displace all of our aggression and overgeneralize every black man as being Mr. And a lot of times I would pose the question to the audience and also to Aaron and No Excuse ENT. What happened when Mr. went through what he went through? Because Mr. probably went through undiagnosed mental illness. But back then, we didn't call it a name. We just called it crazy as hell. That's what we called it back in the day. And so there are many pathologies that a lot of men have dealt with, and it was just undiagnosed mental illness. We tend to associate all black men with having, you know, abuse issues. But abuse and domestic violence was not just endemic to black people. It was just a byproduct of all ethnic groups that were in America. White men were doing the same thing. But you don't hear white women running their men down like our women do. You know, he's abusive and, you know, he had kids by other women. White men were drinking that were poor. White men were having kids out of wedlock. They were beating their wives too. They always doing the same thing. But the problem that made it worse for us, like Tavis Smiley said, when white America get the cold, black America get the flu. So we had a double dose because white men weren't being called boys. We were being called boys. And we were losing jobs, and we were getting lynched and hung. And I'm not trying to use victimhood or all that to justify whatever, because I do believe that a person can supersede the barriers like our ancestors did. But however, there was a lot of unconscious and undiagnosed mental illness. A lot of people were functionally mentally ill. They were dealing with it, but they were still mentally ill. You can be a functional alcoholic, but also you can be functionally mentally ill. You just know how to deal with it, and you mask it well. But it does not erase the pain as it relates to your mental health.
Good point. Good point. Now, I want to ask the panel a question. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. He did choose to be in relationships and to procreate with these women. Most of the time, us men, we see little signs knowing, you know, like we be knowing like, okay, this chick kind of crazy, or this chick, you know, could he be at fault for choosing those women to bring, you know, those children in the world with? Could he be at fault? That can he hold himself accountable for that?
Yeah, most definitely. You know, I had a child young, bad situation. I learned from that quick.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't finna get no other woman pregnant. It's been 21 years since that happened. So he didn't learn or take time for his first situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought about this too, like, and he obviously made a bad choice in a woman twice.
Right.
Exactly.
That's true.
Very close. I don't know how close in relationship from his ex-wife to his girlfriend, but you know, he went through a lot with his ex-wife, so he really needed some time to himself before even thinking about being in a relationship. And then on top of that, getting another woman pregnant, you know, so it shows that he had a weakness in himself. Maybe he wanted a family, and maybe these women, because somebody brought up something that he was a anesthetist, and so he was making money. So he probably could have been targeted, preyed on for his financial situation. Like, you know, he seemed like a sucker. I might have a baby by him and get some child support out of him. You know, that could have been the mentality. So it's unfortunate, man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. It's very unfortunate, and that's why we need to have these discussions. I don't mind men taking culpability of their malfeasance. That's why it's important for men, including myself and all men, to practice sexual discipline. You know, you can derail your life by being undisciplined as a man. But, you don't see the sympathy, because let's take a look. Let's play the devil's advocate, Aaron, and also to the other brother. Now, suppose there had been a woman that had been abused mentally by her husband, and she would have turned around, killed her husband, her ex-lover. Do you think society will be more empathetic with that woman versus the man? Because we tend to be more empathetic when women create atrocities towards men, such as violence or domestic violence. But when it comes down to the man, he has a more harsher sentence. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. There has been women that have shot a man because of physical abuse, whether it was in that moment or it was premeditated. And like you said, women have showed more empathy to women in those situations. Society has shown more empathy in those situations. And the legal system has shown more empathy to those women in those situations. So
always.
There is a double standard. Some people may say there's double standards that we just may have to live with. I don't know, but this is a double standard that, I don't know if we should take on the chin.
Most definitely. Let me catch this super chat real quick by Don Johnson. I appreciate the $5 super chat. He says, we failed to realize both the women he was involved with were foreign. The problem is we brothers pedestalize and give women too much power over us. Now, do you feel like do we give them the power over us, or is it the system that give them the power over us?
Right.
Because, sometimes when I see us, going back and forth on these panels and we be having these discussions about, child support and alimony, and, it seems like we really have a problem with the system that they put in place, to where they take their word as, as law, basically. And in most cases, all men in America are railroaded in the judicial system. They can, and it is sad, man, because I feel like it hurts the whole society in the whole. Like when you allow, because I remember when my grandma told me that the reason that people didn't get divorced back in her day was because it was difficult to get a divorce. Like you would go to court and try to get a divorce, and the judge would be like, well, why are you getting a divorce for? And you would say, oh, because he doesn't have a job, or he'll say, oh, she doesn't cook and clean. And he'll say, well, y'all work it out and see me in 3 more months. Right. See if I still want to get a divorce. But now it's like, oh, you want to get a divorce? Oh, we'll give you a divorce for $29.99.
Yes, sir, right. Well, no fault divorce is actually called the mental derailment of a lot of men, but it's also caused a lot of fragmentations in the family. And I was thinking about this man when he said he was depressed and he didn't have a family, and I was looking at some notes, and some of the byproducts of a person disassociating is they're daydreaming, spaced out, or have their eyes glazed over. They act different or use a different tone of voice or different gestures. Subtly switching between emotions and reactions to an event, such as appearing frightened and timid, then becoming bombastic and violent. You saw that guy switch between his emotions. You saw it. His tone of voice was different. And then on the last part, he went from talking normal, and he said, "Today is going to be the day." And it was eerie, man. It was scary. Yeah. I've never seen nothing like that before in my life, man. I've never seen nothing and like that. And does he have to take ownership? Yes, but it goes back to what you said earlier, Aaron. Is it the system that's causing this mental derailment of so many men? Because even though that young man should have took ownership and accountability, but remember what he said. He said he always wished he had family. He never had a family. That goes back to undiagnosed mental illness, but also it goes back to a level of brokenness that many men have never got unresolved. We don't know what happened to that man in his childhood. We don't know if he went through some kind of trauma or post-traumatic stress. But he said he was depressed. He was tired of his baby mom or his ex-wife. And then he said he never had a family. So it lets you know right there that sometimes when needs drive behaviors, you use people as substitutes to help you deal with your pain. Now, when there's domestic violence, we call it trauma bonding. But who's to say that, and I'm going to use this term loosely, that he was not doing some form of trauma bonding due to undiagnosed pain. But we don't think about it in the context of mental illness. We look at it from the exterior and the veneer, but we don't look at the internal dialogue that this man was having that led up to his issues or his condition. And that's an issue.
Mm-hmm. Somebody in the chat is saying that both of the women were Asian Americans. Have y'all heard about that?
No, I never heard it.
Yeah, I didn't know
I
that
haven't
either.
heard it either. The language that these women spoke didn't come off as Asian Americans,
Mm-hmm.
but I have to get confirmation on that.
You know what? I did see an article with 2 Asian women on it. I just thought it was just like a mistake or something. So I did see an article with 2 Asian women, but I'll look for it while we're talking on this show to make sure. But we got a lot of guys in here. We got 114 in the room. Yes, this is a very important subject. Now I want to ask you this, the coaching clinician. I spoke to this, asked Rob this earlier. Do you think that if, say, one of us, he might have contacted us, and he was telling us his personal story, what he was going through. We might not have been too familiar. Maybe, we met him somewhere. And I've actually done this before. I've actually met guys in bars, and I've told them about my travels, and they just light up. They just be like, "What word? Well, how is it this? How'd you know about that?" Right? Mm-hmm. Do you think any way possible that he might have made a different decision if he had like a trip or something planned or coming up with the fellas?
Oh yes, I definitely think it could have reduced or minimized the violence that man more or less elicited upon those 2 women, and unfortunately himself. Kubler-Ross was a scientist in the past. She talked about the 5 stages of grief. The 5 stages of grief is that you deny what you see, you become angry, you begin to bargain and rationalize, then you become depressed, and he talked about depression, and then you accept what happens. That's normally the last stage of grief. Now, it appears to me that his stage of grief, and normally in the stage of grief, the person makes a recovery and turn around, but it appears in his last stage of acceptance, he just realized, you know what, there's no more hope, and he decided to take his life and those women's lives. But I do believe that when men have spaces, I've had men talk to me in private when I do non-diagnostic consultations. When I had those men talk to me, they said they felt better, and they saw life from a different perspective. One of my friends, he's a life coach, and he talks about men that were on the brink of depression and also suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideations, and also homicidal ideations. And once they got the proper counseling, coaching, then they were fine. Because see, when men are broken mentally through a woman, men are very vulnerable. The imprint of a woman, the imprint of a man is a woman through his mind. But a woman is imprinted through sex from a man. So this man was mentally imprinted. He probably had some detachment problems or attachment problems from his childhood. And all that stuff plays in hand if he didn't get those issues unresolved. I always tell people, Aaron, this. You can be chronologically a grown man, but developmentally you can be, 20 as it relates to your psychosocial stage of development. And it's a possibility this man was vacillate between his various stages of psychosocial development that never really got addressed, which led to unresolved issues.
Mm-hmm. That's a very good point. Let me catch the super chat real quickly. Shout out to Bishop NYC23 with the $5 super chat. I really appreciate that. He says, my mom always told me, stop looking for happiness in a female. You make your own happiness. Don't let these females bring you down. That's a very good point.
Mm-hmm. And I always tell Aaron, people, you and I have talked about it. Women abroad are women. At their core, they still going to be a woman. Every woman is different outside of their core. But her core is provision, protection, maintenance, security, and protection. That's her core. Mm. And if she had to manipulate to get it, they'll do it too. The only thing in other countries that is better controlled because they have machista or machismo, or they have what's called the patriarchy. Here in America, it's out of control because there are no safeguards. But women abroad are universally the same. Would you not agree with that? In general, at that base level.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. And you're absolutely right. And it's funny, man, because I saw a post today on Facebook of a woman. She did like a little TikTok thing where she was saying that, the men are the most attractive in these countries, right? She pointed at Italy and South Africa and Brazil and all this. And I'm like, they just don't know. I'm like, when y'all westernized women get out here, y'all be in for a rude awakening.
Right.
Because these men out here do not play by the bar at all.
Right.
At all. It's like you can't call a system to come and help you, in some domestic, I've seen situations in Colombia where, Colombian woman was getting at a guy and that guy, he gave it to her, right there in front of everybody. Everybody just sat there and like continued their meal. So, it's definitely, I know, Rob, you probably seen something like that too out there in South America. So that's definitely real. Let me bring on Essential. I think that's entitled. Let me see if I can bring you on, brother. Hey, what's going on, man? You on mute. Let me see if I can take you off.
All right. Peace and blessings to y'all good brothers, man. Doing good work out here, man.
No doubt. What's up, brother? What's going on?
All right. What's going on, Mr. Kosher Clinician? And
how you doing, brother?
Black Man Travel. Peace to the No Excuse. Peace to y'all guys, man. Y'all guys are doing excellent work out here. I just wanted to come and chime in because it was a very serious thing. Me and the Kosher Clinician, I know him personally.
Right.
And we had conversation. I hope you like the studio, sir. I started doing my thing a little bit here, so y'all guys gonna see me and stuff like that.
Hey, when I saw Louis Lattimore in the background, I already knew what it was.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Salute to the truth, right? So I just wanted to say, gentlemen, I was on Dennis platform last night, and we was talking about this. And Dennis had some real serious concerns about it. A lot of brothers came in, they had some concerns about it. We had a police officer in there that was speaking about that stuff, and he's actually a police officer in that. Well, I don't know in the area, but I think it's in Baltimore. And what my channel is going to kind of like speak to this thing. And one thing I would love to share with the brothers, and y'all guys is doing a fantastic job, because actually y'all guys kind of like, I just listen to y'all guys in the background. It helps me pursue other options. Like, all right, let me just get my stuff together over here. I got good brothers right over here I can link up with, and it's just a matter of time. I just got to get everything in order. But alienation is real, brother. Parental alienation can trigger certain people, mainly a man like that guy, because he ain't had no family already, right? And I'm not making no excuses for his action. I wish one of us would have talked to him before he made that. I wish he had somebody else he could talk to before he made that very, very, very drastic decision. But parental alienation is very real. It causes serious depression. And what happens is, I think that some of these ladies understand that, and we are not really understanding the law. So what the channel is going to focus on is like the 13th Amendment, the nature of an agent provocateur, and stuff like that. Because what happened is, some of these, not all, I'm not going to never say all, but some of these ladies, they understand the 13th Amendment. All right, sir. And the 13th Amendment basically say, gentlemen, here in the United States, is that slavery was never abolished. It's just a transformation of ownership, right? So basically, once upon a time, prior to 1865, we had something that was called chattel slavery, and that just morphed over into basically state slavery. All right. So the transfer of ownership of slavery just went to the state, and what we are finding ourselves getting caught up in, I'm noticing, is that we are not really being told that at a very young age, so we can really understand and protect our seed. Because basically, as Dennis says, these women belong to the state. And if we do take a real good critical analysis and examine the certain circumstances from a legal perspective, it'd be suffice to make that claim. So that claim, us going into the system, gentlemen, young and kind of blinded by these legal parameters and ramifications, is making us extremely vulnerable. And we're looking at the young ladies like, oh, she's so nice and everything. But in all actuality, brothers, she's a potential agent, just like in the Matrix, right? Whoever's not unplugged is a potential agent. So some of these ladies is running around as, you know, they still in the Matrix, they still have that thing, and they coming across like they're sincere and everything like that. And some may be, but you know, according to the system, a lot of them are not, unfortunately. And the results are showing it. So basically, an agent provocateur, and that's what I'm focusing on. My channel is going to be focusing on that aspect. The agent provocateur is a person who understands the custody agreement of slavery versus state and chattel slavery. They understand this stuff. They young. They understand, okay, my body, my choice, and how all this ties into the 13th Amendment. So now when we get them pregnant, our property becomes their property because we actually put it into them, right? And according to the way the laws are situated, she is her body, her choice. And now the baby comes out of her body. The final result is her child, right? Even when you're married to some of these sisters, you know, if they come in with that agent provocateur mindset, then, you know, so now that's the agent part. She's smiling in your face. She's convincing you. You don't know the law. You don't understand the ramifications. You think she's sincere, but she's actually, you know, a matrix in disguise. She's part of the matrix. The matriarchal matrix is what I call it. So she convinces us that she's going to do no harm. She's a sweetheart. And then when the baby arrives, whether we have the contract of a marriage or not, it can get very complex because the marriage is done through the state. And she and the child now is connected to the state. So now they can kind of like levy your assets, right? They can levy against you. Now you're going to be upset. Now this is the unfortunate thing that I want to teach all our young brothers. I did a video on it. I did only 2 videos, but the unfortunate thing about it, what happens when we feel violated, betrayed? We get angry. We get upset. We feel violated, right? We feel, you know, we feel it's a very like, oh my goodness, how can she do this to me? I believed her because she was an agent. She was appearing to be something she wasn't. That's all an agent is. It's something that appears to be something that it isn't. And then we have here where she understand that power legally, and now we got to go. Now the system, we don't know, brothers. Really, we don't know. That's why y'all brothers are so important. Y'all brothers don't understand how important y'all guys are. Right? What y'all doing is saving lives. I tell the kosher clinician that all the time, right? I said, brother, I appreciate you. I support that brother. You know what I'm saying? And what he does. And I support Dennis. I support y'all brothers because y'all guys is out here saving lives. Y'all actually inspired me to get this information out. And I said, okay, this is what I think I have to offer to the manosphere, that we're not really understanding the legal ramifications. So I just want to, you know, if y'all guys have any say or what y'all guys think about my examination and how I'm going to put that together, I would love to hear y'all elaborate on it. I appreciate it.
No, you make a very good point, man. Very good point. And you know what? I want to ask this to the kosher clinician real quickly, and I'm gonna catch these super chats. Why do you think the relationships don't, like, as soon as she has the baby, it seems like it takes a left turn? I want to know, like, why is that? Is there something psychologically with some of these women that, like, okay, I got what I want out of you now, and I can get the money from you as well. This is my child, and they're gonna go there. Like, why is it like that? Because there's so many situations like this.
Yeah, I think you said it in a nutshell. For some, it is the knowing that the system does not more or less benefit masculinity or men. And because of that, they know that they have the upper hand. And so some, you know, we call it taking the mask off. They take the mask off once they get the what you call it, the ring. So I think there is a level of quote unquote them taking the mask off or showing their true selves once a man say I do. Now some of them could be postpartum depression where they get antsy and cantankerous and all that. But in general, it's just manipulation. Part of female nature, female psychology, is that she's a slave to her biology. And part of her biology is survival.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, part of her biology is survival.
Oh, that was helicopter. Don't worry about that.
Right.
I don't know if y'all heard that. Excuse me.
Yeah. Part of her biology is her ability to survive, and the survival means to usurp or more or less, take out a decent brother. Then some will definitely do it, man. Unfortunate. It's unfortunate, but
Let
it
me
can
catch
happen.
your super chats real quick, and I got another question for the panel. Shout out to let me put this on mute real quick. Shout out to Saul's Life, a $10 super chat. He says, traveling abroad somewhere, even alone, is life changing for a black man. Unfortunately, a trip wouldn't fix his issues. It's much deeper. Don't plant your seed in rotten soil. It will ruin your life. Man, that's deep. Very deep. Also, shout out to V Moves with the $10 super chat. Man, I really appreciate that. Now, some of you guys, everybody's in the chat is saying this guy's not a simp. What would you consider this guy to be? Panel.
He just didn't have no. I won't say a simp. He just didn't have what some of us have. Like he didn't have just the game taught to him, or I mean that's pretty much it. Like you gotta have the game. And what I mean, like I had cousins that put me on game, or other brothers put me on game. He just wasn't on game on women. And I want to respond to your question that you asked, Aaron, too, about women having kids, because I've been following a lot of conversations on social media with women, all the podcasts, and the conclusion I'm coming to is that women women prefer to be alone more and more now, because all they need from a man is his seed.
Right.
Women are using men for these seed. Like I just woke up to this. Like all these actions that you're seeing, single moms, having a baby, breaking up, from celebrities to regular people, women are using men to have babies. You hear these women get asked questions all the time by like Kevin Samuels, like, you went to this Ivy League school and you had a baby by somebody that's not even on your level educationally. Why did you do that? And you're not choosing to be with men that's gonna hold you accountable. Women are choosing to be with men that's reckless with their seed. So they're like, okay, he gonna have unprotected sex with me and possibly get me pregnant. So so we have to start showing men, and hopefully they are seeing it. Like women, a lot of women are using men for their seeds, and they don't want a co-parent. It's clear as day now. Women do not want to co-parent. It is very clear. Yeah, somebody could chime in.
No, I agree. I agree with everything you said. Many don't want to co-parent, and sadly, many have not been conditioned to respect masculine authority or masculine power, which in essence diminishes the role of many modern black men. And because a lot of our boys haven't seen power, they don't know how to demand it as well. They tend to defer their power instead of demanding it. And so it's just a maze of mental illness, and it's just a maze of dysfunction that's been traced, sadly, in these last 3 generations. I didn't see it as much when I was a kid growing up. I'm 50 years old, but the world is radically different compared to when I was a kid growing up in the 90s, man. It's a different world now. And it was going on, but not to the level that it is now, man. And it's sad. It's really sad, and it's unfortunate. But that's why we got to have these discussions, because we don't need no other men suffering in silence due to unsavory women. You guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
You muted. No excuse. You muted. Yeah, you muted.
I'm sorry. I wanted to get your opinion on something, essential entity. So, and it's kind of what you were saying, like this trap system. So on one hand, men want to do the right thing, get married, have a child, but you get jammed by the system because women want a baby and they don't want to co-parent. So then men realize, okay, I have the upper hand when I'm single and don't have a child. That's when a man has the upper hand when he's childless and single. So they attack single men with money, you know, some of these celebrities that got caught up, whether it was some, you know, uh, touching them or some sexual accusation. So they attack men with money to push them to be with one woman because, when you're a man with millions of money, that means you can sleep with a lot of women, and women feel like, oh, you're taking advantage. You're taking advantage of these women because you got money. So the system makes that man with money get married so he could concentrate his funds with one woman in the event of a potential divorce where she can have leverage. So we screw in a lot of ways. So if you're a man with money that's single and childless, people are going to find ways to take away that power, especially if you're with lots of different women and things like that. So it's just a hard game, whether you married or single.
It's a hard game, man. Very, very hard. Did Aaron pop off?
Um, uh, so I've been listening to y'all guys in the background for like about 2 years. I've been like watching a little bit everyone, and I think one of the most intelligent explanations about protecting ourselves from that type of those results, those negative results, we have to understand the financial institution and take away that incentive, right? To want to do us unjustly. And there are some ways of doing it. I'm doing some research. I'm listening. And I'm gonna tell you now, brother, I'm into therapy right now, brother. I still take therapy because I did everything the right way and I got done wrong. Like 100%. I couldn't believe it. And when it happened, I was kind of like, I didn't know what happened. It was like, what? Like I was lost, right? Like I was completely like flabbergasted, man. Like I couldn't believe it. But then it started to spiral into negativity. I started really becoming angry. And I only had one child. I had my child when I was in my 30s, man. You know, I had it by a much older woman who I thought she was a mature woman. And she knew how to provoke me, man. She knew how to utilize the child to trigger me. And what that does during the parental alienation situation, it makes the father looks like he is psychotic. But they are starting to now do the research and say, well, hold on. Why is he behaving this way? Let's take a look into that. What are you doing to provoke this man? So when I start hearing other people from the manosphere speak, I mean, and it's a variety, brothers. You got whites, you got Indian guys, you got every spectrum of the rainbow, basically every complexion of skin color that has this experience here. So I made a conscious effort to say, okay, let me get around positive women for one, because I didn't want to become a bitter dude towards all women. I didn't want to become toxic in that perspective, right? So I made it an intention to find some decent sisters that was experiencing the same thing I'm experiencing on the opposite side of the spectrum. Then I started to intentionally seek out therapy sessions, right? I started intentionally listening to red pill therapeutic people, and that subsided my red pill rage, because I had it bad, man. I had it really bad, and now having a space like y'all guys, I wish that man had the opportunity to speak to somebody, because he literally lost it, and I'm not gonna say I understand, but I was almost there. I swear to you, I was almost there. So the blatant disrespect and the blatant deceit and the blatant manipulation, man, it's like, whoa, what do you do with something like that, right? Because when somebody agrees to something in our world, gentlemen, we're men. When we agree to do things with each other, we honor each other's word. We do that. It's not really hard to do. Like we learn to do that kind of early. I think we learn that on the basketball court, the football field. You know, we learn how to, like, it's not cool to say something and don't do it, man. It's really not cool to do that, you know. And I think it's a manhood thing, and mainly if you was raised by a man, he let you know that quick. Don't do that, man. Your word is so important to you. So when we go into the world treating women like that they're gonna honor the same code of thy word is thy bond, then they disrupt the whole contract. It's like we like, what we don't do that. That's not what we do here. But we don't have anything to hold them to task, right? So we don't have anything to hold them to task. They simply change their mind, brother. Like, that's what Dennis made me realize. He said, what are you going to do? This is what Dennis said to me one day. He said, what are you going to do when she changed her mind? I came up with every best case scenario situation. Then he said, so, all right, when she changed her mind, then what? And I was stuck.
Well, it's a systemic issue, and so you don't have to change your mind. This don't be part of the process. It's literally that simple.
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, she changed her mind. Let's say, like, so he's just trying to say, yo, we got to start formulating systems to protect ourselves from. He believes in marriage. I believe in marriage. I do, and I believe in that institution of family. But when there's not no honor and integrity associated with it, it's like, what do we do from that perspective? We have to start setting up systems to protect ourselves.
Well, you got non-stop state bonded marriages. You got prenups, or you can choose to get a wife from another country and keep her in the country and just travel back and forth. There are definitely options, but you don't have to use the American method of being married. If you feel like that you got too much to lose, make her sign a prenup. If she's really down for the cause, she'll sign that prenup.
Right.
And then if you don't want to do a prenup, get a non-state binding marriage, or get your wife from abroad and just leave her in that country. But you got to properly vet women. That's the main thing, and it's not a guarantee. That's why a lot of guys don't want to get married, because they don't see no benefit. They feel that the risk outweigh the benefits as it relates to their mental health.
Yeah, I was having a talk with this lady real quick. At a bar, just a random, and we was having a discussion about having kids. She asked me if I wanted to have kids. I said, yeah, but in another country. And like she totally lost interest in me in that moment. She like, why wouldn't you have a child here? Because of your past situation. I was just like, I feel like it's a more even playing field if I do that. So I say all that to say is that having a child, God should consider having conversations with women. And one thing I told her, I was like, if I wanted to have a child in the United States, I would ask a woman I'm potentially interested in dating this question: if we were to have a child and for whatever reason we were to separate, and if I had a son, would you give me custody of my son? And some women might give you the answer that you may need to know if you want to stay or go. You know what I mean? Like, that's a question that guys could ask. Like, if we break up, let's say if I have a son, would you give me my son? Well,
you can't go by what she said. You got to put that in writing and make it
right.
Bounded. Don't go by what she said, because women are very fickle with their emotions, and she can say it to that point, but if it's not in writing, it means nothing.
Right.
So I would definitely put it in writing and see what your state laws are.
Well, that's one of the things. I was talking to a gentleman. As soon as I get it all together, I'm gonna bring it out to y'all guys. But one gentleman was telling me is a way that she can forfeit before you even. But see, it's tricky because the judge can throw it out. Because the system have a vested interest in this whole child support. It's a $51 billion a year industry. So they have a vested interest. So I was trying to ask, I said, well, how protected is, what guarantees we have that the judge might not throw that out on some type of, frivolous, whatever he feels he want to say, like, so just to get the money. So he said there's ways to get around it. So we working on it now. As soon as when I get it, I'll make sure, I'll send it through the whole, everybody who may be interested in taking a look at it. And seeing making sure it's airtight. But we definitely need to do something about it because it's statistically proven that fathers are better parents than single mothers. And we can see the results in our communities and how it has a negative impact on not only the children, but just the whole community altogether. You know what I mean? And it's like, man, you know, they can know that it's failing us and they're still want to do it. And that's a psychosis, right? Wouldn't that be considered a psychosis?
Well, no, psychosis is normally due to some organic, it's an organic abnormality going on inside the brain. It can be a drug-induced psychosis, or it can be an organic psychosis. Some drugs can cause a person to be a psychosis. I will say it can make a person neurotic. A person that's neurotic is very hell-bent on getting something done, almost to the point that it's obsessive-compulsive. But yeah, but it's not necessarily a psychosis. Not necessarily. That's normally due to some organic or something due to drugs.
Okay.
Coach Clinch, I want to get your opinion on something I experienced when I was younger, it's around the subject of what I call temporary insanity.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So years ago, I was with my homeboy, and I walked up on a chick I was with, talking to another guy.
Mm-hmm.
And in that split moment, I felt disrespected. And in my head, I was like, don't put your hands on this girl. Mm-hmm. I was telling myself that internally, don't put my hands on this girl. Mm-hmm. And instantaneously, I felt my arm like raised and like almost gonna put my hands on it, but my homie grabbed me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then I, you know what I mean? And I kind of gathered myself, but like in that split second, like I felt like I didn't have no control. I felt like something came over me because I was telling myself, don't put your hands on this girl.
Right.
And something happened. And so when I thought about that, when I thought about him, and the second part of my question to you is about gun ownership, because sometimes owning a gun could be detrimental too, because if you're in the heat of the moment, you get that temporary insanity, and he probably killed that girl in that split second. And then when he said, you know what, I can't go to jail, so he just, you know what I mean, so he finished the second murder was premeditated. Mm-hmm. The first murder could have been just a instant temporary insanity type situation. Mm-hmm. So, you know what I mean? That's why I don't want to own a gun. You know what I mean? My mental health is great, but I want to own a gun. Some people shouldn't be in situations where they holding a gun because you might use it. You know, he could have been pacing around the house with a gun and used it when he probably wouldn't have if he had his gun tucked away somewhere.
Well, that's why they do a prior criminal background check to see if you have any undiagnosed mental illness. But on that tangent, that's like, say, owning a knife. Suppose you don't own a gun, but you got a knife in your house. Say you walk in, your wife is talking to another man, and he kissing her, and you see some butcher knives. What do? You still can stab him to death. You know, the gun is a lot more quicker. But the thing with the gun is you got to go run and load it up and then pull the trigger. The thing with a butcher knife, it's immediate. So, you know, in the clinical world, we call it locus. We call it locus of control. It basically means, are you centered when you're going through the things that you're going through? Do you have a sense of your awareness in your space and what you're about to do? And that's why a lot of times some states are mandating mental health. Some states are mandating some forms of mental health assessments before they let people get guns. But you know, there's a scripture that says, it says in the King James, "For jealousy is the rage of a man; therefore he will not spare in the day of vengeance." And the basis says that when a man is enraged, more or less more or less a boyfriend, how much more a man that's a husband, like the cop that killed his wife because she was doing what she did. And see, guys, that's why I do what I do, because men by nature are very territorial. Most men don't like to have the thought of no man entering their woman. It can drive a man damn near insane, because men by nature are very territorial. And just like the gospel say, bone in my bone, flesh in my flesh. The man see the woman as part of his prize because, you know, she came out of him. And when you have thoughts of other men entering inside your woman, it does something to you, man, when you can literally snap at that moment. I will say no woman is worth you going to jail for or losing your life over, but some judges in some states are a lot more lenient over you pleading a temporary plea of insanity because you can snap. If you walked in, some man was digging in your woman's guts, her damn toes are curling like that witch on the Wizard of Oz, and you end up snapping because you didn't know what to do at that time. So I get where you're coming from, man. That's why these chicks need to stop playing with men and stop lying to men, because there was a woman, it was in the past, the man found out that she had 6 kids and none of the kids were his. So guess what that man did? He snapped. He killed all the kids. I think he cut her head off. He cut her head off and killed all the kids. So you can't play with folks, man. You can't, women don't understand men's psychology, how men think. And that's why I do what I do, because men are not wired to accept certain things. Just like a woman can't accept her man being entered by a man or being bent over. Women are not designed to accept it. It's called the penetration principle. Men feel the same way. That's why men struggle about a woman's sexual past. We understand a woman's going to be human. The less the bodies, the better. But if you find out your woman had a lot of bodies, it can cause the man to be traumatized, man. You know, especially if he's a masculine man.
Hey, can you guys hear me? Okay, perfect. Apologies, man. I'm having technical difficulties. Let me catch this super chat real quick by Delano Music with a $10 super chat. I really appreciate that. He says, 1, we as men need to vet our partners thoroughly. No cutting corners. 2, every man needs a support system. Don't let ego hold you back from being mentally healthy. That's a very good point. Closer condition. I want to ask you this real quick. It's a viral clip. Maybe you guys have seen this viral clip of a woman, a sister telling, I guess she's on some type of talk show. She's saying that children don't need fathers; they need father figures. I just want to get your guys' take on that. I start with you, kosher clinician.
Well, that's the most asinine thing that I've ever heard. You don't need no damn father figure, because all father figures can't teach you how to be a man, and that's not that man's investment, so he's not going to be as invested as it was if it was his biological child, if he's a righteous man. Father figures are for women that are widows and their husbands have passed away. But a child needs his own father to guide him, to teach him, and to direct him. So she said father figures, that's a form of the dysfunction, guys, that we're talking about. And a woman like that run from her because she's obviously has some mental issues that she haven't got dealt with, because that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. The only exception for that, if the father died and you got a community of elders that's more or less trying to guide those men. But in general, a child needs his biological father. And then the elders are like a support that can help surround him and camp that kid when he's dealing with whatever issues he's dealing with.
Mm-hmm. And Robert, what you think about that?
That's an excellent question, man. There's something I recently pondered on. I was, even with my situation, with my child's mother growing, as he growing up, she used to say, like, this other man, he around other men, because I used to say, like, there's nothing but women in your family. She's like, he around other men. But now, since I got assets, I got a home, I tried to reach out, talk to my son, like, I got things that I want to pass along and put together a will and things like that. And, he wasn't really, it was surprising. He really wasn't interested. I'm just like, asset conversion is what brings so many people generational wealth. So a father figure could be in your life, cool, but he not passing you down nothing when he
Right. I'm the one that got legacy that could pass to you, whether it's my name, my assets, anything like that. So like 50 Cent got, y'all know about 50 Cent, his son, and he got a son with another woman. He spoiled a mess out his younger boy. He don't have a relationship with his son, and his son act like he don't care. But your father got something to pass on to you that could change your life and your kid's life and so forth. So women not thinking about the legacy that a man can bring, that the biological father can bring, that the other person can't. Right.
Very good point. Essential entities. Did you want to make a comment on that?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna just I'm gonna kind of like piggyback off of what the brother said, because if you do think about it, legacy is in the bloodline of the father and in the name. That's why we pass our name off. So see, that's why a sister or woman or agent provocateur who proposed that, is only proposing chaos. Because, like the coach of the politician just said, that man don't have that blood DNA chromosome investment in your child the way you do.
Mm-hmm.
That's your DNA. That's your bloodline. You look at him, he looked like you. You see yourself when you was looking at yourself young in the mirror, and she wanna, create a chaotic environment that's unnatural. For what result? What's the result of that? Because see, when it's just to keep more potential of nonsense and chaos from occurring. They say that I listened to the brother Mr. Palmer. He says something like 92% of the abused cases happen and with the possession of the single mother household. And how with those type of numbers, because us, we think about numbers, right, guys? We like to know about statistics. I know I'm one of those guys that help me out a lot. But it's also one of the things that trigger you, right? Because you're like, how difficult people going to be when the numbers is telling us everything and they're going against the numbers, man. They're literally taking their emotional trauma, drama, nonsense, and chaotic stuff and trying to have it override common sense, facts, and statistical data, and evidence. Like, it triggers people, when you have to deal with somebody that childish, that foolish, or that chaotic, And that's why therapy for me is important, because I'm a mathematical man. I make mathematical calculations. So when I see somebody literally going against mathematical logic, it freaks me out, bro. Word up. That's what I got to say about that.
That is a very good point. Now, I don't know if you guys have heard about this. This is an article that came out that says a single mother in Chicago lost her third child to gang violence. I just want to get your guys' take on it. I start with you, Rob, with your take on it. And this is in response to when women say things like, oh, you just need a father figure, not an actual father. We all know that if a father was in that home with them boys, because there were 3 boys, all of them got killed in gang violence. Right. It's a large possibility that them boys would still be alive. Why don't you think they can see this clearly on how important a man is to be in that household?
Well,
go
ahead.
They internally struggle with giving them control. They know what's right. They realize it after the fact, but they have to compromise. Do I want to give up control, or do what's in the best, do I want control or do what's in the best interest of the child? So women all day will say, well, when we talk about the outcome of boys, they say, well, you need more fathers. You need fathers present. But you had a baby with a man that you didn't want him around. So what do you want? Do you want fathers present, or do you want to have a child with me, but you want another man to be the father? Like, it's so much hypocrisy with what they say we need, but they don't want. So we have to find a better way to take over this situation, because a lot of women, they can't make, God put us in God created men to make decisions.
Mhm.
You know, and we have to figure out a way to get control from them to us to make those decisions when it comes to child. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Very good point. Coach Clinch, did you want to tap in on that?
Well, yeah, I think when you are used to having what's called a fledgling or more or less a matriarchy or a culture that's more or less very gynocentric. You know, Frederick Douglass said it better than me that power never conceded to anything without a struggle. It never have and it never will. And so when you've never been socialized to see true masculinity and true masculine authority, then as the gentleman said earlier, it's very hard for you to give up that power. Many of our women don't respect us as men. They see us as less than. In other cultures, they respect the men because there are governmental safeguards and community safeguards to make sure those women are held in place. And that's it in a nutshell, man. You know, I think if those boys had a strong father, it's not 100%, it's not a guarantee. But if he's a strong father, I do believe that he could have greatly reduced the odds of those boys being killed. Yes, I agree with that.
Essential, I want to get your take on this because you had mentioned that the women belong to the state. The common question most people would ask is, if she lost the first two, why wouldn't she just leave that neighborhood? Why wouldn't she leave that city? Why wouldn't she leave that state? And do you think it's because they don't want to lose maybe like the Section 8 or the social benefits? That's the reason they stay in these dangerous neighborhoods up there in Chicago?
I'm going to say something that is not going to be popular, but if we do the research, you'll see that it's accurate and it can be backed up. Right? I personally call it the modern day slave breeding system. And the reason why I call it the modern day slave breeding system is because that these women have been incentivized, not all. I don't want them coming for us, all right? I don't got no time for that nonsense. But the majority of the ones who's behaving this way, they're getting a little bit of money and they're being incentivized to have babies to give them the sophisticated illusion of a freedom, like the same thing they slave masters did during the 1808, during the slave breeding farms, where they used to incentivize women to have children, and you have 15 children, they'll give the women freedom. It was a deal. You can look it up. They're 13, 15. They it was breeding farms, so they used to incentivize them. And I think that we have a modern day version of that. We have a modern day version of slave breeding, social dysfunction behavior that incentivize them to do that stuff. And because they give them a sophisticated illusion of power and freedom. You know what I'm saying? Like it gives them some type of illusion like they're winning. And even though everything is falling apart everywhere. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my assessment of it. And that's why I think that's why brothers like y'all are going out, because those, like the brother, the kosher clinician just said, there are governmental safeguards that's going to kind of like prevent that, because they don't have no real vested interest for that. So they don't third world countries or developing countries. Let me not say third world country, because what happened when you at the bottom, you have no place to go but up. You know what I'm saying? So there's serious incentive to do well. That's why these folks come over here. They do extremely well because they in the land of opportunity. They want to come up. I think that these sisters been programmed to think they winning when they don't understand the reality of the world.
And it's so bad. It's so bad that I think I seen an interview with Roxy that used to be on 106 and Park. Women talking about freezing their eggs, having basically having, what's the process of having a child without having inseminated? So they women want to have children without men. Like that's scary. It's crazy.
I agree. That it's going to breed more chaos, brothers. Just men, we provide structure, order, right? logical forward thinkers. So I'm like, why? You know, see, they looking at it just a possession of property perspective. You know, they're coming from it from, oh, that's my baby. Like it's like what, your baby, but it has my legacy, my DNA, and everything like that. And here it is, you're just saying it's your baby. It's not. It's not. You know, like it doesn't. And if you listen to the, I listen a lot, and I'll always hear them saying, "My baby, my baby, my baby, my baby." I'm like, oh my goodness, hold on. Where the man at? You didn't make that baby by yourself. You know what I mean? But it's like the state gives them full power and control over the child and the man. I learned something about this thing. Kosher Clinician, if you don't mind, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I think I was doing some research and I came across this term called male disposability. It's across the spectrum, black, white, and all. I would like to know what you think. Like, what is your intake on this male disposability thing that I'm starting to like hear people talk about in the media? And
Well,
stuff.
some call it this disposable male syndrome, and it's basically based on the principle of male utilization, where they just basically see men as tools. They don't see them as human beings. They just see them as tools. There's a saying that say that men are human doings and women are human beings. And basically, it's what I call the queen bee drone syndrome, where some women just are the queens and they got a bunch of goofy drones serving her as a woman. And you see it more so now because it's the culture that we live in. Our culture is very gynocentric, very matriarchal, and it follows code. That's why when men decide to travel, that's when Aaron Ferris tell guys about getting passports. Like I did a show today. I was doing a show. I saw my numbers drop, my subscriber drop. Because they got mad because I had the American Brazilian. I did a show about the American Brazilian. And when I was in Brazil, I was at Christ the Redeemer. Actually, I was down there with Aaron. We chopped it up and did a show together. And some of the women got upset. You know, anytime black men talk about traveling, doing what's best for them, they get upset. They just think that we're going to give them our loyalty and our adulation for free. And that's due to entitlement, and it's due to simps, because simps don't demand anything. I came out of high school back in 1990. I remember a time when men demanded something. They didn't deal with chicks that were 500 pounds. They didn't deal with chicks that were ran through. They didn't deal with chicks that had kids by other men. And I know you might say, well, how do you know? Well, you knew it. If you grew up in the country, you knew the girls that were fast and the ones that weren't. They don't get it twisted. Sometimes the quiet ones were sneaky and doing it too. But in general, you had an idea who were the good girls and who were the bad girls. But now you got guys to deal with chicks got 4 or 5 kids by different men. I don't get that, man, because basically that man has had his way with her body, and you taking care of somebody else's seed. That's stupid to me. And so, like I said, the self-esteem is so low, man. You know, and this is the worst I've ever seen, because men used to speak up, man. I remember times men spoke up about a lot of stuff, man. But around the '90s, early 2000s, it started going down, man. And what was just normal became seen as hate speech. And it's to the point now you damn near can't say anything without retaliation.
Mm-hmm. And you know, I feel like the media had a large role in that, like that time frame you mentioned, as far as the '90s and the early 2000s. You know, you had a lot of female talk shows, and it seemed like almost every show was based on, you know, men being terrible, or especially black men. It was a whole decade of just, you know, them saying all types of stuff that really wasn't even true for the most part. This whole, you know, point of, oh, most black men are just deadbeat dads. They just, you know, they make women pregnant and they just leave. You know, the blame was always put on us. You know, I think that's one of the reasons that, you know, society kind of just, you know, had that stereotype about black men. But then they came out with a study and they said that, you know, black men were pretty much there. They were fathers for the most part.
Right. Right. They were right. They've done studies on that. And that's part of what I call the psychological effect when we displace aggression and we associate all black men as being missed on from the color purple.
Most definitely. Well, fellas, I appreciate y'all joining the show. I'm having a few technical difficulties out here, so I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it on up. I want everybody to go ahead and say their piece before we leave, though, as far as, you know, this particular situation we're talking about, and how do you think personally it could have been avoided? I'll start off with you, Essential.
I think what y'all guys doing right now is essential to it, because y'all help a lot of guys see other options, for peace and happiness. Y'all guys is, building a network of brothers who know each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, we might all haven't met personally, but we do know of each other. Somebody already did some cross-referencing and did some homework and say, oh, nah, I know that guy. You know what I'm saying? Or, nah, that guy support this. Oh, no, this guy support me. And, I'm getting support, now. I supported others, and now it's coming back to me, and I'm building with it. And so stuff like what you doing, brother, definitely the culture clinician, the brother, no excuses. You know what I'm saying? This stuff is essential. This whole overall manosphere, I think, is probably the best place to get mental health, and go in a place where, you're going to see seeing your brother being happy is not a bad thing. You know what I'm saying? See, once we start seeing each other being happy, we don't feel angry because he's enjoying himself. We don't feel jealous. These guys, it's a lot of people don't want to see other brothers happy, and that's because they so stuck in so much misery. You know what I'm saying? So they don't want to see you happy, man. You know what I'm saying? They see you happy. They like, yo, man, you know what I'm saying? What the hell he's so happy about? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So when they come amongst us, they see like, nah, son, you got to stop. Nah, you want to see your somebody that look like you happy. That's a healthy thing. You know what I'm saying? You want to see that, because if you want to see that for him, he's gonna want to see it for you. We all want to, we each other reflections. So if you hating him, you hating yourself. You know
Thank
what I'm saying?
you, man. Very good point.
You know what I'm saying? So even back in the days, man, you know what I'm saying? I used to be, but that always been the principle. I see a man, he don't take care of his kids. I'm like, oh no, man, you ain't gonna be friends, homie, because if you don't take care of your own baby, you ain't gonna look out for me.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So, all that stuff applies, man. It's all retrospective and all that, and it's all relative. And I just like to, I love what y'all guys doing, man. You know what I'm saying? Y'all guys just out there showing brothers is a better way. Get yourself together. I got my second passport. I only got one stamp on it, but I'm gonna get up with y'all guys. I already talked to the culture clinician behind the scene a while ago. I just had to get all this stuff together, and listen, I'm gonna bring some good brothers over here for y'all guys to network with, and these guys is resourceful. I'll be seeing them. They be having a breaking point. I get them. I had to talk a couple of dudes out of suicide, man. I had to talk, yo, what you talking about? Like the content of the conversation. I'm like, yo, what you? Nah. What you thinking about? You crazy? Listen to these guys, man. Listen to the red pill. You got to get off that blue pill, man. That blue pill is no good for you. That's what happened. They stuck on the blue pill. So I'm like, yo, you got to get off that, man. That stuff is not good for your spiritual, psychological, mental, and emotional health. It's not good for you. Because he thinks he's a utility. He got to be a machine for other people, and he's not getting rewarded. So he get frustrated. You know what I'm saying? He's not being thanked. He's not being appreciated. So he's getting frustrated. I said, nah, chill. You got to take it easy, man. Word. And he told me, he's like, yo, good looking. And he's red pill now, bro. He's on his way. He's on his way. You know what I'm saying? So y'all guys y'all saving lives out here. Y'all waking these men up. Y'all waking a lot of the young is actually stopping the nonsense. I see young dudes, they focus now. I mean, in a supermarket, they focus like a laser. They ain't even looking at none of this stuff. You know what I'm saying? They focus now. Guys is getting focused now. And they starting to see like, yo, I don't want to get caught up in that. I don't want to get caught up in that. You know what I'm saying? So y'all go, yo, God bless y'all, man. Word up.
Man, very, very good point, man. You want to shout the channel real quick?
Say it again.
No, I was just saying, okay. But no, that's a very good point, man. It's almost like relationships, they see what we went through, our generation went through, and it's almost like, you remember how you saw crackheads and you knew not to do crack because you saw what a crack, and nobody in our generation really did crack. It's similar to these young guys. They're like, okay, I want to live my life. I don't want to have no kids out of wedlock. I want to be able to travel the world now. these guys traveling the world, they enjoying life. They dating different women from other countries. They're seeing this. They're seeing this. Through our eyes, and they're making the adjustment. Coach Clinician, you want to go ahead and say your spill on it? You speak on it.
Well, listen, these spaces are more or less what we call in the clinical world a group catharsis. These spaces alone are not necessarily the panacea to dealing with true mental health illnesses. That's why I say when I talk with men, I do what's called a non-diagnostic consultation. I'm not going to diagnose you because if you're not in the state of North Carolina, I can't treat you. But what I can do many times is give you parameters around your diagnosis, and I'll tell you to look or get with your insurance provider and look for a therapist in your area, even though it's going to be hard to find black male therapists that thinks from a traditional conservative perspective as it relates to male rights and male empowerment. But at least it is a start. These spaces cannot cure true mental illness, but it can deal with adjustment disorders. Adjustment disorders are totally different than organic pervasive mental illness like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder. Those kind of disorders need proper mental health treatment, such as psychotics, antipsychotics, and other medications that got to be prescribed through a psychiatrist. But in general, the gospel say in the multitude of counselors, there's safety, Aaron Farris. And I think these groups have been a safe haven for many men that are going through rage, going through pain, going through hurt. And I think I've been able to use clinical science to more or less finesse the art of humanity to help these young men deal with some of the issues that they're dealing with so that they don't snap under the pressure of a gynocentric culture and a gynocentric society where many times men are expected to be silent, which in essence turn to an implosion, which in essence lead to an explosion based on what you saw with the man from Baltimore. So these conversations are essential. Kudos to you from starting the conversation. I've been talking about this subject for the last couple of days. I talked about the unconscious simp. And then also I did a show talking about the American Brazilian and foreign relationships versus modern relationships, and why it's so important for men to value themselves, value their seed, know that they have inherent worth, and get with women they're going to get with their program. I just feel like our American culture is very toxic. I don't see any changing of the American culture no time soon. Mm-hmm. And we just got to continue the discussion, man. When you see brothers in crisis, you link up with them and try to help them out in a nutshell.
Very good point, man. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I'm going to have to send you some Falcons memorabilia, though, man, for that background there, man. You got too much blue going on there, brother.
Oh no. Man,
I appreciate you coming on. Even though we beat y'all this week, I appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Who did y'all beat? Who beat us? Who beat us this week?
The Falcons.
Oh shit! Oh yeah. The Falcons did. Yeah, Cam. Yeah, we need to get rid of Cam, man. Cam fell off, man. We need to get a new coach and an offensive line. But like I said, man, much love and blessings, man. And that show we did. When are you gonna put the rest of it up, Aaron? You gonna put it up?
Oh yeah, most definitely, man. We're gonna put that up very soon.
Brother. All right. Well, anyway, listen.
The brothers need it.
No, I totally agree, man. I totally agree. It was a good show. I had a good time with Aaron and Barra Tijuca in Brazil. We had a good time chopping it up. Aaron is a good brother, man, and like the old gospel say, how good is for the brethren to dwell together in unity. And so the unity of the brotherhood is essential to dealing with a lot of the issues that we're dealing with. And I think for as long as these spaces are going to be alive, we don't know when the FCC is going to shut these spaces down. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, we got to have these conversations, guys.
Very good point. Very good point. Let me catch these super chats real quick, and I'm gonna get to you, Rob. Shout out to Delano Music once again with $2 super chat. I really appreciate that. He says, "Do not settle for a mediocre life." That's real, man. That's very real. Good point. Shout out to the Minister Jap Network for the 1999 super chat, man. I really appreciate that. He says, "Blessings to y'all. I got my passport. We out here. Relax, y'all going to hate on me. I'm a comedian, fam." Shout out to Mr. Jap. Shout out to Mr. Jap. And we got No Excuse in the building. What's your take on this, brother? What's your closing thoughts?
Well, I'm gonna address the topic of discussion about could traveling abroad save his brother. From my personal experience, man, I think traveling, it may not solve your problems, but it does reset masculinity. Mm-hmm. My experience dealing with women, I had a baby mama that was fine, voluptuous, bad. That didn't work out. I wanted another one like that, but I couldn't replace her. So I was that guy that was dealing with a chick with 4 or 5 kids, but she was fine.
Hold on.
And
that's for another show. That's for another show, man. Hey, don't feel bad. Well, hold up. I was dealing with one with 2 kids that she was fine too, so don't feel bad, brother.
Yeah. And I was trying to get her pregnant. Just the sight. I was trying to get her pregnant. And we could talk about why in that moment, but I wanted to get her pregnant. It didn't happen, thank God.
Hey, she was a red bone once. You tell the truth.
She was a red bone. I wanted a hood kid. My son, he kind of grew up in a proper area, so I was like, I wanted a hood kid. She'd be perfect, man. But now I was young, so I went from.
Hey, they're getting on you on the chat. But you know what? We all been there though. We all been there. Let's be real.
True.
We all
real.
been there. We didn't know no better before this. A lot of us didn't know no better before this.
Yes,
man.
sir. Yes, sir. Right.
So I'm gonna tie this in. So I had a bad baby mama. Next one, she was bad, but with kids. That didn't work out. So I started seeing myself going down and down as far as the quality of women. So I end up, getting somebody else that wasn't too pretty, but didn't have the kids. And then that didn't work out. Then I dated just somebody that just treated me nice. And she wasn't even all that. And then she wasn't, and then that didn't work out. So I started traveling, and I had to slowly build myself up back to my original standard because I just kept lowering my standard. So that's why I said my masculinity got reset, because I'm like, what I want, I can get, and I've been able to do that since I've been traveling. And so I think a lot of men in these groups, we had these conversations about traveling, and one of the common things guys say is that they feel like a man. So I think that when you're a man in your true form and your true masculinity, you make better decisions because you're not consumed with other things. That's why men in other countries, they can be about their purpose because they're not worried about getting sex. They're not worried about not being able to see their kids. They could worry about just life. You know what I mean? So we can't even worry about life because we're worried about getting a release to be able to start our life. So traveling definitely, would help, restore masculinity and for us to know what it feels like to be a man, because we can't fully be, you don't really know what it feels like to be a man in America. I don't care how masculine you are a minority in a country that is under matriarchal rule. So when you go out the country, you get a sense of what a man is supposed to feel like.
It's true.
That's a very good point, man. Let me catch a super chat real quick by Joe. I appreciate the $5 super chat. He says, reset masculinity. I miss Brazil already. That's real, man. That's real. I've been overseas living in South America for about a year right now, man. And it's very difficult for me to even imagine living back in North America because I'm so used to a certain standard now, where, it's a patriarchy down here. And that's what I'm used to. And it's going to be a very difficult adjustment if I have to ever go back to the States. I know I'm not pretty much dating no more in the States. That's a wrap for me. But guys, I appreciate you coming on the show. And this is a very important topic that we talked about, man, because we just don't have these discussions, and we need these discussions, man, because maybe if this brother would have talked to one of us, maybe he would have made a different lifetime decision, and everybody would still be here. So I appreciate you guys coming on the show, man. And guys, if you're frustrated, man, you can email me or you can contact the coaching clinician, and let's try to, sometimes you got to have self-therapy, man. Whatever you got to do, whatever you feel like you got to do, sometimes it's really easy just to pick up that phone. Even if you don't, sometimes it's good to speak to somebody that you don't know that well. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes when you going through something, I just been plenty of times I've been going through it, and I call a family member. He be like, "Hey man, I'm gonna hit you back, dog." You know what I'm saying? Or you call a friend of yours, and they be like, "Dog, let me have this real quick. I hit you back, and you'll hear from them no more." Sometimes this is why these groups, these Facebook groups, and these trips, that they're good for us, man. You know, sometimes, especially the thing that hurts us a lot, that I feel like is the fact that, you know, until now we was hanging around guys in our own peer group, and a lot of times guys around your same age can't tell you anything, you know, any information that's going to shed light, that's going to help you make a better decision in life, man. A lot of us grew up with guys, you know, around the same age. We all lost in the sauce because we don't got no older brothers to kind of tell us like, hey man, it's just female nature. Don't take it personal. You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and let it on go. You got a long way. Because when I was growing up, man, I thought you were supposed to already be married by 21, 22, 25. You know, that's what it was back then. And we all know that, man. You know, you want to kind of live your life as a man. You know, you want to, you know, get married kind of older these days. You know, 30, 35. That's a good time for a man to get married because you're a little bit more established and you know who you are and you know what you're willing to deal with, man. So I end it with this. And once again, man, I appreciate everybody coming on the show. Peace.
Yeah, peace, brother.
No doubt. Be good, brother.
All right, peace, brother.